this on now. Such a beautiful work, especially when you're up close. Like I thought it was just such a gorgeous display to have from the window going by. I thought, well, they're going to be small, you won't really notice, but they're so stunning. So we should say the beautiful YVONNE Leon, of course, and you've got this exhibition here. You're going to be here on Saturday and Sunday from 1 o'clock till 3 p.m. in this tiny gallery. We'll call it, it must be the smallest gallery in the world, if not Ireland. But a lovely idea, I think, by Ross McFarlane to set it up here. But just the work itself, it's so stunning. How I'm completely dumb when it comes to ceramics and all that. How long would say like a beautiful piece like this? Are you talking about months? Are you talking about weeks? Or once you get the idea, can it be done in days?
Well, what I start off is I draw out my idea first, and then usually I have I have sketch pads upon sketch pads of work. And I would have maybe magazine cuttings or images from books and stuff that would interest me, and then I would concentrate then on making the figures to have a story really behind them. So for instance, there's a couple of ones here that would have a story. Like this one, for instance, this is called The Glance. And what it is you know, when two people make a connection between one another. So it might be you might be just walking down the street and somebody will catch your eye, and there was, for that small minute, there was a connection. Happens to me all the time.
It gets very annoying. I have to put sunglasses on, pretend I don't see you. These women just all the time.
So yeah, so it's those two people are making a connection, kind of like chemistry. You don't know exactly what it is, but you can't pinpoint it, but there's something. And so these kind of like these vines, I suppose, between them are the connections. That was the way I was trying to express it through that. And then, so you were asking me how long it takes. So from the starting point, I usually make 3 pieces at the one time. Right. So what that means is that while one of them is drying, I can go back to let's say to the first one, then go to second, third, and just kind of work it in 3s all the time. Because it takes so long, I can't just make one piece and there it is.
Right.
I have to let it dry. If I don't let it dry, it's going to give me trouble later on down the line with the firing and glazing and stuff like that. So you have to be kind of respectful to the clay and not push it too far. You have to know when to back off and when to add on another bit. So over the years of my own work and through my years of working in ceramics, I know when it's right and when it's not right. So basically, yeah, so I'd make them in 3s, and then what I would do is, when it's dry, it's called greenware. So you know that the piece is completely dry and ready to go into the kiln. So then I take the pieces and then I put them into the kiln, and then they're fired to 1060 degrees.
Right.
So when they come back out of the kiln then I hand paint all the glazes onto them. And the glazes that I use are a bit unique because they're called special effect glazes, which means that in each part, let's say for instance on the head of this one here, there's tiny particles of glass. The glaze is a glass, but they have those little kind of crystals that I would put on them, and you'd notice it here especially in the base. So again, you put the crystals on them as well, and they will give you lovely different effects. You can see kind of like the dark green then into like these emerald colours and stuff like that. So that's what I would do to kind of give it the glaze on it. Then I have to fire it again the second time, and it's fired to 1260 degrees. So it's very high firing because these pieces are stoneware.
Right.
And the clay is called White St. Thomas's Body.
Well, yeah. I was going to say that you know we had the lovely piece with you in the guide, and the fact that you know your years in Kilmainham and that sort of that sense of from art college always working with clay. Yeah. Was it a given from the start? This is where I'm headed, or did this sort of evolve over time that you sort of realised this is where I feel the most comfortable? This is what I get the most joy from, because art is such a massive, wide screen of possibilities. I mean, this particular kind of area, was there a moment where you just thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do? This is.
Yeah, it's actually quite a strange thing, because let's say I wasn't very good in school as such, that I wasn't very academic. So it's very 3D was my kind of thing. I didn't realise it at the time, when you're going through secondary school. And I always had inside me, I just wanted to work in clay. I can't tell you why that is. Right. but it was very much there, and I wanted to get a degree. I was very determined to get a degree.
Did you do a lot of sandcastles when you were a kid? Maybe there's some
Down
a
by
good day.
Spain.
That's it.
Yeah, I did. So it was just it was natural for me, I suppose. It was the material was right. And yeah, I suppose in foundation year in our college, you get a sort of a taster of each technique and different fields of artwork, and you can try all of them. But for me, there was very much a draw towards the clay. And I used to work mainly in porcelain clay, which is far more difficult to the stoneware,
right.
but it's very unpredictable. But I used to work in that a lot. So I perhaps after this show of work, I'll go back to making these in porcelain, and also in black clay as well, to just have the contrast as well.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, you mentioned I do think that all the great artists generally avoided school. I think there's a sort of part of the brain that almost doesn't quite connect to academics. It's all about the sensual and the feeling and the soul of it. But I also, like a lot of artists, there's pivotal moments in life where you experience one trauma or another, or you become kind of more. I feel when you look back on people like Bowie and Manny, that they have these moments in life where a life-changing event happens, and it kind of creates a new form of their art, or a new kind of level of their art. And of course, you had the tragedy of your childhood sweetheart getting married, and unfortunately, it was only like I forget how many months, like 19 months or so. But Owen passed, and in 2010 you moved here to Greystones, and now you've got 2 lovely children, and you're married to Mark. But I'm guessing that period of time would have refocused your work enormously. I don't know whether it was entirely kind of recognisable at the time that you were going through, maybe as an artist, kind of a pivotal moment.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you on that. I suppose with my other work before, when I was in art college and I was dating Owen at the time, it was very light. That's actually quite whimsical and funny. And then I suppose these pieces are far more serious. Actually, they're there on the surface, and I suppose they're kind of like an itch I need to scratch. I have to make these. Right. And I'm very true to what I'm doing, because I'm not sort of going along making pieces for people. Right. These are very personal sort of journey that I'm taking with my work. Bar 1 or 2, I have to admit that, but
sure.
Very much, yeah. Like for instance, this piece here.
Make sure I don't do any kind of reversing and then cause a nice domino effect.
That's on my card and that, and so this is me, and in it I have my 2 children up above, and then my 2 husbands, and it's kind of like it's all on my shoulders, and the memories and the things to look forward to. These are very important to me, and this is called Family Tree. So yeah, I decided not to put an expression so much in, like a smile or anything, on the faces. I think all my pieces, they're kind of in thought.
Right.
They're thinking. They're that moment, when you're maybe when you're on your own or just walking along, and
sure.
People are not smiling. They're just being themselves.
Yeah.
And maybe they're thinking about things. And these pieces, they all are in thought.
Well, the great thing about that is that it can be read, as a kind of a constant itch that you're not quite sure necessarily where the piece is in their particular thinking. If you've got, as we looked at earlier on, is it Midnight Conversations called?
Yeah.
But the idea that you can interpret whichever way you feel you want in any given moment what that means or what's going on, or it's a lot more productive if it's not like a big happy smiling face or a very sad face. And I should mention now that for people who want to have a look up close, and because we're here in the lovely Theatre Lane, and people can obviously take a walk and see your work in this gallery, but you'll be here on both Saturday and Sunday from 1 o'clock till 3 p.m?
Yeah, I will be. And if anybody wants to discuss any of the pieces, because I could tell you the story from every one of these. Right. They all have a story, and so if there was something that was interesting to somebody, and they want to know the story behind it, I'm more than willing to tell them it. And because even when I'm making them, I do feel that with every piece that I put on, or the glaze that I put on, it's really well thought through. It's just I could say some things are a little bit you can leave to the kiln because it's a bit of magic.
Right.
You put on the stuff, you don't know what you're going to get out of it. But there's times when I put them on the glazes and I can see them. They're actually telling me their story in to some way. I know that sounds a bit arty and all that, but there is a little bit of that. Yeah.
Before I go, I'm trying to figure out which piece is dedicated to me, because obviously I would have had a huge, you've seen me on the street, so obviously I've had a huge effect on you. I'm looking around and I can't see what a really attractive one.
Attracting all the birds. You
that could be me. I'll settle for that. That one will do, rock and roll.